Hey there, friends. Welcome back. And if you're new here, I'm Lauren with Rustic Honey, and today we are talking all about handmade holiday items. I'm going to be sharing with you a little bit of a scrappy pillow that I'm making in my sewing room this morning. And it's probably one of the bigger projects for today, although very simple, beginner friendly, and just kind of a little fun project. And then the other DIYs I'm going to share with you today are very quick and easy if you're a busy mom like me and you have little time for DIYs but want a few handmade touches around your home, or just want to spend a little bit more time being creative intentionally this holiday season. I hope that they will inspire you in some sort of way today. Now, to kick off these projects, we're going to start with a handmade pillowcase or pillow cover for the living room. And I have one that I made years ago, and you've probably seen it on my channel, that's made of a plaid fabric, like an old flannel. And I just cut the silhouette of a tree out and then stitched around it. And I have loved that pillow for many years, but I've been dreaming up of another one that's a little bit more scrappy and very handmade looking. So I headed into my sewing room with the intention of going through the scraps in my drawer and just pulling out some scraps and playing around with mixing the prints. So as you can see here, I pulled out a small gingham that has kind of a primitive look to it. I have an old corduroy and several ticking stripes. So it looks like a mess right now, but that is kind of the beauty of the scrappy project. It's going to be a mess, but it's all going to come together in one little masterpiece. I also have this piece of upholstery fabric that I've had for years, and it's nice and hefty, so it's going to be a good backing for my tree. And I've got to get my iron going this morning because all of my scraps, as yours are too, I'm sure, were all crumpled up in the bottom of my drawer. So I'm going to try to iron them out here, get everything flat, and then kind of like a puzzle, piece this together to where I can sew on top of it, keep it all together, and create a nice little scrappy tree. I like doing projects like this. They remind me that we can use what we have. We don't always have to go out and buy the newest thing. We don't need new Christmas decorations every year. And we can be certain that our ancestors probably had Christmas where they had to use what they had on hand and be creative with it and be thankful for what they had. So how blessed are we that we don't have to necessarily piece together remnants around our homes to decorate for Christmas this year, but how lovely it is to accept the challenge and feel very blessed that we have as much as we do. Now, I found that what helped me with this was creating every piece into a triangle, and then the side of the triangle lining up in the middle of the tree where I have that stem kind of coming down. That is going to allow me to do a zigzag stitch straight down the center of my tree, and that will kind of hold the pieces in place for the most part. Since I'm doing this on a traditional sewing machine, it's going to be a little bit more difficult, of course, to catch all of those little pieces. So I'm doing that zigzag down the middle first, and then I'm going to go back with a few more stitches back and forth to make sure that everything is affixed to that bottom fabric first. You will also notice that I have a dark thread color on top of this. I just went with what was already in my sewing machine, and I really liked the contrast of it anyway. Kind of goes with the ticking stripe I had with the navy thread. But you, of course, can play around with your thread on this one too. Some of you may want something more neutral so that all the attention is on the pieces rather than the stitching. So play around with that. But again, here I am just using the remnants of what I already had going. And to be honest, I think I emptied off like 3 different bobbin threads during this project. It never fails. Like when I'm in a hurry and I'm trying to sew, I'll run out of bobbin thread or I break a needle. That is inevitably how it goes when I'm in a hurry sewing. Not that I was in too much of a hurry today. I was really enjoying being in the sewing room, but I have a little one at my feet this morning helping me. So when you have little ones in the sewing room, you're always somewhat on a time crunch. Now, as you can see for the second stitch I'm making, I'm using a straight stitch and I'm just going back and forth, lifting my foot pedal as I go and rotating this Christmas tree so that I can create one big zigzag along all of those pieces, kind of creating another Christmas tree in a way as I move down the tree, making sure that all of those pieces are secure. Now I'm decided to go back and do the same thing on the other side. So it'll kind of create little triangles in stitch on top of those pieces. And then to finish it all off and make sure everything's really on there well, I decided to hit it with a zigzag stitch around the entire edge of every limb. And I just really liked the way that that finished that off. And I know that in our house, this pillow will probably get thrown around a lot, and I want to make sure that it's not going to come unraveled really easily. So I thought that the zigzag stitch around the entire edge not only adds a little bit of extra texture, but will make the longevity of this item work a little bit better in our home. Now, speaking of zigzags, I decided to also use the pinking shears to cut out my tree. I'm leaving just a small bit of that herringbone upholstery fabric around the edge. I like the way it makes the tree pop off of this darker olive fabric that I'm getting ready to place my tree on. We're gonna make a simple pillowcase with a envelope opening in the back. So if you've never made one of those, stick with me. This part is super simple. And again, we can make this even with the baby hanging out on the floor this morning. All right, for our pillowcase, I had another one here, so I'm just going off of what it was, but I think it was an 18-inch pillow. I like to cut my pillow covers usually slightly smaller than what the filler pillow is based on what you buy at the store, let's say. That way you have a really full pillow. So I think for this one, it was an 18-inch pillow, and I cut around about 18 1/4 because we'll have the seam allowance, of course, around the edges of this too. Now, disclaimer, just remember, you can always sew around the edges of your pillow again to make it smaller, but you can't make it bigger. So when in doubt, make it a little bit bigger and you can go back around it again. Now you have these two panels for the back envelope, and you're going to do a rolled hem stitch on one long side because that is going to be the only edge where it needs to be hemmed, because the rest of it's going to be inside of the pillow. So on those two back panels that we cut that are slightly longer than halfway across the pillow, we're going to do a rolled hem, and then I am going to take the front square piece and just straight stitch around the edge of my tree to get it completely attached to that front panel. Now it's time to put those pieces on that are right sides together and overlapping in the back to create our envelope. Now it's just going to take a straight stitch all the way around the square, and then we'll be able to easily turn it inside out because of the envelope that we created. Now on the interior of your pillow, you might also want to go around the very edge with a zigzag stitch, or if you're lucky enough to have a serger, maybe finish off those seams on the inside so that they don't fray out over time. For me, I just used a pinking shears today, and we're going to go with it for now. I think it's going to be just fine. I found kind of a floppy, less than desirable filler pillow today. I could go buy a new one, but again, we're using what we have and enjoying the handmade look. All right, I think some of the best handmade DIY Christmas gifts are the ones that are personalized. And we recently had pictures taken, so I wanted to just quickly print out one of those and make a cute little magnet for the fridge. I would like to make a few of these as Christmas gifts too. I've also seen people make these into the cutest little ornaments for a Christmas tree, so you can do many different things with these little vintage frames. I happen to have this one lying around the house today, and I wanted to get going on this project so I could share it with you. But I do have a few new ones coming in the mail to create as gifts too. So I'll share those with you later in this video as they did arrive in the mail. We'll do a little bit of an unboxing later on to show you what I got. Now, with this one being a quick DIY project, I decided to just print that picture from my home computer. So it's just on regular printer paper. If you're doing that, you can always go into your print settings and select best quality, and that really helps the quality of the photo come through and all of those deeper colors. Now, if I could find a nice quality paintbrush around here that my kids hadn't chopped in half, that would be helpful. But we're just going to add a little bit of Mod Podge on the front to create a nice like glaze and protector for this. One thing I had seen people do was to kind of dab it on there. It makes it look a little bit more like it's been painted. I personally didn't feel like that worked out very well for me. It didn't ruin it by any means, but I think in the future I'll probably, for a for a photograph, just do a smooth layer of the matte Mod Podge over the top. And this is a step that is totally optional. You wouldn't have to do this at all, especially if you take the time to get your photos printed with a nice matte or a gloss, depending on your preference, and then slipping it into these little frames. It's such an easy little DIY. So since my picture was printed on regular copy paper, I did add a light cardboard on the back. As you saw there, I used an old Christmas card and just cut the same shape to give it a little bit more structure. And then I hit it with some super glue and a couple round magnets I had lying around. I bought those in bulk years ago and they have come in so handy for so many projects. So buy yourself some magnets in bulk and get the strong ones so that you can make cute little frames like this. Now, this is going to sit here and dry. I thought also, I wish I would have had a little bit of like a glitter just to do a very light dusting on top of that Mod Podge to give it a very magical touch. But I'm going to spiff up this frame just a little bit with some Rub and Buff, and it's in kind of an antique gold color, so it's just going to give this a little bit of a sheen, and I'm going to do my best while I hold the baby here and show you how this came together. It's a nice lightweight little magnet. I love having photo magnets all over the fridge, obviously. So this one just is a little bit more special because of the frame. I think this would make a great gift too. All right, next up is going to be here in the kitchen. I am going to do some dehydrated oranges, which I'm sure you have seen people do a lot. I have never personally tried them, so I wanted to try a couple different ways of doing it. And of course, we're going to keep this as simple as possible. So I'm going to cut up 4 oranges today in fairly thin slices. And then I have 2 large cookie sheets, both lined with parchment paper because I need it to be easy cleanup. And one of them I'm putting that cooling rack over the top to see if that will dry them a little bit more quickly because of the airflow, of course, underneath the oranges. And we're going to put them in for an hour, and then we're going to flip them over and then let them go another hour and then flip them over. I've watched several people do this in different methods and read up on it, and some of them seem a little too hands-on and a little too complicated for me. So we're going to try out this method and I'll let you know how it goes. It was hard enough for me to find 3 to 4 consecutive hours of being in my kitchen or being around the house today. I definitely don't need to make it more complicated by flipping those more often than I need to. Now, while those are in the oven, I'm going to run outside really quick and hit these bells with some spray paint. I found some in my stash, but it's not cooperating very well this afternoon. I've had this one for a while that has kind of a stone finish, and I used it on several projects around Easter. You might remember my stone bunnies. I love it because it sprays out this thick texture. Apparently, the only thing bad about that is eventually it gets clogged. So I could barely get it to come out, but I was able to get 2 bells done with the stone before then again hitting them with that metallic kind of brass color. I was really going for making them look more aged and more authentically antique. So stay tuned. I'm going to show you how those end up after they dry outside this afternoon. Meanwhile, inside, it's already been an hour here in this video, so I am flipping over my oranges. They are not dry at all after the first hour, so I'm going to pop those back in the oven and get busy on a couple more things around the house. I've been neglecting this little coffee nook over here since I decorated for Christmas. I've been wanting to make a hot cocoa bar. I've been looking for a little tiered tray that's just 2 shelves, and I cannot find one that I like enough to purchase. So I've been reusing this 3-tiered tray for a couple years now. We're just going to make it work, even though you see how it doesn't quite fit underneath my open shelving, which drives me a little bit crazy, but it's going to work just fine right here once we get everything in its place. I also found these cute little containers at Dollar General to put our marshmallows and chocolate chips in, so I'm excited to get those cleaned up and add those to the bar today. The kids are at school, and I know they will be so excited to see this when they come home today. A few other things that I have purchased along the way for this were from Hobby Lobby, these little scoops, and I got everything at 50% off. So again, for like $1, I bought these cute little spoons. They are going quickly, of course, but I've had these mugs for a couple years, and I store them with all of our Christmas decorations, so it's nice and special when those things come out every year. Now, I thought these canisters were a good deal at $3. They're glass, and they have a little bamboo top and a spoon that comes with them. So I will say I almost grabbed another set, and then when I read the label it said not recommended for food. So be careful when you're at the dollar stores looking for these cheaper items. Sometimes they're not made for food. So Always keep that in mind. Be sure to read the labels before you bring those home. But I loved these, and I think outside of Christmas, they'll be perfect to keep some things in for coffee, or keep our greens in them. They're really pretty, so I'm looking forward to using them, outside of Christmas as well. Now, for the little K-cups of hot cocoa, I put them in this little snowman cookie jar. My grandma gave me this years ago, and my kids really like it. So we put all of their little hot cocoa cups in there. And then I just buy an assortment of things that I know family members like, so that when it comes to Christmas time and we have guests, we have a few different options for coffee or cappuccinos we can throw into the Keurig, and they can make their little drink as special as they want. I also love to find the Christmas to-go cups, so that, we enjoy them. My kids and I enjoy them, but it's nice if guests stop by, or if they're just in and out really quickly, I can offer them a drink for the road, and it's just a nice little festive touch. I love doing this in our kitchen every year, and we really enjoy it. It was a busy little afternoon with our DIYs. I wanted to reveal some of the things to you that we're finishing up here. Now, the bells that we were able to do that stone texture on the outside were by far my favorite. I tried to do a little rub and buff just to see how that would look, but honestly, I don't think it's worth the extra effort. They're really cool with just the stone finish and then hitting them with a little bit of the metallic spray. So I definitely want to go ahead and buy another can of that so that I can do more bells like this. This was my winner. The other ones I sprayed with just the metallic and then tried to do a little bit of rub and buff on those, but I don't feel like they changed that much from what it looked like when I bought it at the store. So I would say that DIY wasn't really worth the extra time. So definitely go for that textured spray to get that more rustic look, if that's what you like. If not, they're adorable bells as they are. And again, they were from Hobby Lobby, and I got them for 50% off. So I think they were like $2.50. Okay, opening the frames that happened to come in the mail today. They are a little bit heftier than the one I used earlier today. So I will link these below, but I'm also going to link below another set that I almost purchased that was, I think, even more frames, but I'm assuming they'd be a lot lighter weight than these. These are great quality though, and I look forward to making these as great gifts for Christmas. Now, these LED candles also came in the mail today, and I'm going to share them with you because I get asked about these all the time throughout our home. For my birthday, I treated myself to another 6-pack of these, and they are the ivory ones, I believe. They come with a remote, and they will be around my house from, through Christmas, through the winter months, and beyond, because I just love the coziness that they add to any space. And the remote makes them super easy because I'm lazy. I don't want to turn on my lights every night. You can set a timer so that they'll come on and you can have them on as long as you want. So I feel like candles are always a great investment when it comes to our Christmas decor. That's something I definitely end up spending my money on, but I find it's definitely worth it to make our home cozy all winter long. Now, our dried oranges turned out beautifully. I will say that the one with the cooling rack did dry a little bit easier, maybe a little bit more quickly, but it's, again, not necessary. The parchment paper, of course, is also nice. Altogether, I did them at 200 degrees and I flipped them every hour, and it took me about 3.5 hours to finish those off. They were not completely dry when I pulled them out of the oven, but they continued to dry as they sat out this evening as well. But they're going to be beautiful on some wreaths out on my porches soon, but I thought I'd hang one on the tree tonight just to show you how it came together. Now the bells, again, I think I'm going to add them to a wreath on our back door, but they could also be cute laying around on some shelving or a couple books. for display. I hope you enjoyed hand making a few things for the holidays with me today. I'm so glad you stopped by, and I hope you found some inspiration. Let me know what was your favorite in the comments below, or what items you are planning to tackle this holiday season. It's always good to hear from you.